32% based on hypoxia alone. When does hypoxia is the cause of LV dysfunction? When it is not a cause of LV dysfunction, is not very clear. And my personal sense is because of the steep hemoglobin dissociation curve, when it touches below 50, hypoxia itself becomes a part of LV dysfunction. Now, I am prone to hypothesize, and I did hypothesize that in presence of calcium, hypocalcemia, this becomes more of an issue, so that you don't see it so commonly. And when you are young, you are romantic, and you did write some hypothesis, and it dawns on you that an ounce of fact is more than tons of hypothesis. Nevertheless, I think the sense of wonderment must continue, and we must keep on hypothesizing. And you see some revelations that we saw tetralogy with tricuspid stenosis, but when they had rheumatic heart disease in TOF, it was a tricuspid valve, attesting to the fact that it is the wall stress across the valve which causes stenosis. So it was very encouraging that, very clarifying that in TOF with rheumatic heart, we found TS twice. Unfortunately, practicing in India, you don't keep records as you would have liked. Thrombocytopenia and cyanotic heart disease is less well understood. Patient with platelet counts of 10 to 20,000 denied surgery elsewhere, and we could operate and lay down a point that thrombocytopenia in cyanotic heart disease will improve with surgery. This is a tragic occurrence, most tragic occurrence, but I would just bring it to your light that you coil embolized, knowing by experts that spinal artery is an issue. Somehow or the other, the child developed a quadriparesis, which is recovering, but these are the part of our life and our day-to-day existence. What do you do when a patient walks in with this thing and says he coughed out and brings out this BT shunt in his hand, that this is he coughed out in the morning, a BT shunt done 10 years earlier, and his CT is perfectly fine. Whosoever said that facts are stranger than fiction? Or you see this child operated elsewhere when he improved with the surgery, when the BT shunt was done to the vein. Or you have this patient which you are catheterizing and he crashes on the table and the OT is not available. And you take out blood from the pulmonary artery and put it in the aorta for 20 minutes till the surgery could be arranged, and he survives and goes home. These are parts of our daily existence. We don't have much of LV devices, and we don't have very costly technologies. So when you have immunosuppression in DCM and you find a result like this, you are really happy. Unfortunately, which are those patients which will respond? Which are those? How to select? Needs a multicentric trial. I, for one, have failed, but I think the younger generations, now we have just begun to get into the multicentric trial. I'm sure we can answer this. It is erroneous to say that the literature is clear that immunosuppression should not be done. Literature is not clear, and immunosuppression may be of use in certain patients of dilated cardiomyopathy. When it comes to research, my only thought would be that when the tree is on fire, you don't count the mangoes. This is an apology, but we have still managed to do some clinical research. Earlier days, before sildenafil, we did graded balloon septostomy for IPH. In our institute, we have extended the outer limit of ASO by various means. We have done some studies on borderline operability. Sildenafil for PH, we were the first one in the world literature, almost the second or third, not the first. Beta blockers for VSTs, heart and malnutrition, some PTMCs, some interventional pediatric cardiologists, some homemade coils, Takayasu interventions, streptokinase for pyopericardium, RSD epidemiologists, and some cases. But my favorites are case reports because they do teach even in pediatric cardiology. So when you find a patient like this 60-year-old who had ASD, and we did not close this ASD, and she's doing very well because we probably did not close the ASD, and we put epicardial pacemaker in a carotid transposition without any other structural disease. Or I think this is a typical Indian patient who was operated in 2007. In 2018, his LV was giving up. There was a thrombus at the apex. It was very poor, so I called the family and tried to counsel. And then the mother said, yes, very well, but he's getting married next month, and we have published the wedding cards. I said, this is not done. She said, we called the girl, we told their parents, and we explained to them that child may not survive. And the lady says, no matter what, if he dies tomorrow, I'm going to marry him. And I have heard only the Savitri legend in the past, but this is the one which came through. The patient went on to have a child by 2 years, and he got a heart transplant and is doing very well. So optimism remains our moral duty, this victory of mind over matter sometimes. And there are wins and losses. There are patients whom I said no to pregnancy, and she came back telling me that this is the child you thought I would be dead, and she went on to produce another child. It would be blasphemy on this platform to suggest that a couple of pregnancies I did encourage despite PH, and she is now 22-year-old and is thankful to me. And there have been a patient who obstinately did not agree for a PTMC and went on telling that you will save me, I know. She died, but she gave the birth to a child, and this is the kind of patient which really makes you humble. And for once, for 30 seconds, I lost my balance when I saw a child of a patient whose older mother told that his father was apprehended in a bomb blast. And I thought for once that, shall we give this child the benefit of public money? We were struggling to make his treatment, and it occurred to me after a while that this child and the children who died in the bomb blast are suffering from the same disease. that is the hatred for humanity. So day in, day out, we decide for them, we live with them, we breathe with our patients. The entire range of emotion that life has to offer is on display almost every day. How can anyone escape? The canvas of medical treatment in India is colored with rich mosaic background of human stoicism, dignities, suffering, sacrifice, and human follies. These are the presents that I receive for my patients. There is no time for us to discuss God. I do not know why they do this to me, but apparently maybe we are connecting at a little deeper level. And very, very poignant is the third one, which a Muslim patient, poor Muslim patient, insisted on giving me the idols of Hindu gods for prayer. And one insisted on taking my future, judging my future. In India, you know, the mystic and the mundane are inexorably intertwined, and you don't know where one stops and the other begins. This is the lowest point of my career, where a coarctation dilatation, a painless dissection, we failed to pick up, and the patient died the next morning. And the father embraced me and said, Dr. Saab, you did your best. And I could not console myself. In India, the modern medicine is adding another disease, another dimension to disease. We have old diseases, terrible to look after. We have new diseases coming up, but we have a third bigger monster than both these two. It is little less in pediatric cardiology, but it might grow. And if you are off our guard, it could become more. I think we must consciously see to it that the distrust does not develop. Envy to our colleagues does not creep in our pediatric cardiac practice, and we keep this monster away. If I have a wish list in my practice, I would say, how can we decrease the congenital heart disease? It is my considered opinion that consanguinity, I have seen time and again, complexity of congenital heart disease more in consanguinity issues. Gender parity in India leaves much to be desired. A girl child really fares much worse. Access, equity, and technical excellence. Without that, there is no success in pediatric cardiac care. The practice of clinical audit is really very needed in our country as such. I wish we could leverage our collective wisdom more than what we have been doing in the past. I think coming together is beginning, staying together is success, they say, and working together is progress. I think Pediatric Cardiac Society has done well till the first two, and it's the time now to leverage our success and go for progress and tend to do better on this. I do wish that our heroes were more accessible. More of them could have been in private sector. What about future? Are we going for default future, or will we try and shape our destiny? To me, there are very many aspects to this question, but and it has been said that if the same progress continue, we might overtake US and UK. And as long as our human development indices, our financial things will improve, pediatric cardiology will improve. I think before that, it is going to be difficult. No matter what systems we talk, we need to have development, and then only we can probably improve pediatric cardiology. One can think of it in many ways, but to me, if you want to improve systems, think of this. Even though it's a Chinese proverb, we don't mind importing that, that if you're planning for 1 year, grow rice. If you're planning for 20 years, grow tree. But if you're planning for centuries, grow men. We need men of character. We need men who connect with their countrymen. And we need people who think quality, who think education, who think India. Friends, pediatric cardiac practice in India is consuming, challenging, and rewarding. But let me remind you, not many professionals throughout the world have their hands as full as ours. So make hay while the sun shines, albeit too brightly. We should be patient-centered, neither anatomy-centered nor technology-centered. Our patient stoicism demands more and deeper commitment from us. We should think globally, but act locally. And there is yet too much pending work for us. I thank you for your patient hearing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for this insightful, inspiring talk. I'll now call upon Professor Balram Bhargav to give his comments.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Kothari, for such an excellent exposition of a journey of a lifetime. It is absolutely fitting to pay a tribute to a wonderful teacher like Professor Rajen Tandon. Your examples of Amrita Shergill are resonant with the government today in terms of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and I think that is very important. Your points about hypothesis generation and talking about case reports and their relevance is very important, particularly when we are taking tough decisions for patients. You have to step out of the crease and take tough decisions. Many times you may be right 9 out of 10 times, but you have to accept your mistake, and you have so well demonstrated how mistakes were there and they have been taken up. I laud your the point about thinking India, thinking cost effective, thinking frugal technologies, and the biggest monster of distrust that we are facing in society today. And we need to really catch that bull by the horns and take it to a different level, because the patient-doctor relationship starts with trust, ends with trust. And if that is not there, we are losing a battle, whatever technology, whatever we may develop. Congratulations again. And I would request everyone to please give a standing ovation to him.
Now I request Professor Manchanda to hand over plaque to Professor Kothari.
Please.
May I request Professor Reddy to hand over the memento to Professor Kothari. Thank you so much, sir. I would now request Professor Narang to conclude the session with his remarks.